Hello to everyone in the Holy Trinity Greek Orthodox Cathedral community and all of our friends. This is Father Jonathan. I hope you're doing well. Today we're going to continue our reflection on the Psalms of liturgical worship in the Orthodox Church, continuing our meditation on Psalm 140 according to the Septuagint numbering and 141 according to the Masoretic text. And this psalm is one of several psalms chanted during Vespers service in its entirety. It's chanted in a portion of the service called the Kekregaria, which is, of course, as we've already said, it comes from the first line of the psalm as it's chanted, Kyrie ekekrexa in Greek. The Kekregaria include the first two lines of the psalm, chanted somewhat melismatically in different styles depending on the tone of the week, followed by what's called the Thoukiria. The Thoukiria comes from the line of the psalm that immediately follows the first two lines. So in Psalm 140, verse 3, the first line in Greek begins with Thoukiria. And in English it is, O Lord, set a guard for my mouth and a door of fortification about my lips. And actually today we're just going to emphasize that one line because a lot can be said about it. The lines that follow in this psalm offer us somewhat of a moral imperative, ways in which we ought to be living. And it's interesting, again, Vespers being the first service of the day, it's significant that we're thinking about creation in the first psalm, and we're thinking about calling upon the name of the Lord, crying out to God in this psalm. And then as we move into the third verse, we're beginning to see what we need to do in order to live our lives. And the very first thing that we're reminded to do after calling out to God in times of need and allowing our prayers to rise as incense is to ask for God to set a guard around our mouth and a door of fortification about our lips. And why is that? Well, in Proverbs 18, verse 21, reminds us that life and death are in the power of the tongue. We can do so much good and so much damage with our words. And in a time right now when we are hearing from political candidates and news media and all of this stuff on social media that we're listening to and hearing, it's really easy for us to see and witness and participate in an improper use of our capacity to speak, an improper use of the words that we can use, an improper use of our mouth, our tongue. And rather than offering words of life and love and peace, we offer vitriol and anger. And so this is a challenge for us in a time when we might be compelled because of the circumstances around us to not be so guarded with what we say. This psalm is reminding us at the very beginning of the day, be mindful of what you say. Matthew's gospel account, Christ says, I say unto you that every idle word that men shall speak, they will give account thereof on the day of judgment. We're not just accountable for our actions, but we're accountable to the stray word that we say, a word of anger, of hatred, of cruelty, of insincerity, a lying word, a word that's less than truthful, a word that's crushing or damning or something else that does harm to another person, or even just an idle word, just chatting for no reason, gossiping about what's going on in the world. All of these words we will have to offer an account of. How are we speaking? How are we talking? How are we utilizing the gift of our speech that God has given us to cultivate virtue in ourselves, to show forth virtue in ourselves, and to inspire others to live well? And sometimes our words don't necessarily come from our mouth, because when we engage on social media, sometimes our words come from our typing. Or sometimes when we're out and about in the world, our words come from our actions. And I think we can take a good extension of this literal reading of the words that we speak and having to set a guard about them and a fortification about our lips, to be mindful of how our lives are communicating what they are communicating and being mindful of what we are communicating. We need to have a door of enclosure round about our lips so that we can take a breath, pause before we talk, before we speak. It's important for us to be mindful of how we speak, what we say. So a challenge for us as we hear this morning is to think, how can I reduce my idle words? How can I let the words that I say in speech and in action be words that communicate the good news of the resurrection, the good news of Christ overcoming death, the good news that we can live in communion with our God who created us. And we can share that goodness with the world. What are ways in which we can do that? God bless you. We're here for you. We love you dearly. Don't hesitate to reach out if you need anything. Call us, email us, leave us a note in social media, in the message section, the comment section, whatever it all is that you need, we're here for you. God bless you. Have a beautiful rest of your day.